Hi, I'm Laurie Jinkins, Speaker of the Washington State House of Representatives, and I also represent the 27th Legislative District. I'm here today with two great members of the House, Representative Tina Orwall from the 33rd District and Representative Dan Bronoske from the 28th. So the three of us share presiding roles in the House, and I thought it would be kind of fun for us to talk with you a little bit about what it's like to preside over the House of Representatives.
Why does the House have three different people who share the role of Speaker?
I would tell you first, we work as a team, and I'm very honored to be part of this team. You know, we have a number of bills that go through the House, and it's a volume. And so often it's helpful to divide the work amongst the three of us. And, you know, we just have these late nights. And so because we're a team, we always look to our Speaker. She presides on some of the larger bills, which is very good. And then we kind of team up, Dan and I, on the other parts. So it works well, I think, to have the three of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to think that when we're at the rostrum, we literally are dedicated to spending our entire time presiding over the process on the floor and helping to facilitate a robust and respectful debate. So when we're up there, we're fully committed to that process to where we can't actually work on our own policies and our own bills and our own agendas that we care about on behalf of the people of the state of Washington. We are truly dedicated to staying up at the rostrum and making sure that that floor debate is as effective and respectful as it can be.
When you're up on the rostrum, how do you decide who gets to speak on the floor?
Well, just for me, usually it's whoever hops up the most quickly gets picked first. That way I think it's a little bit more fair to whomever wants to speak on a particular policy, but that's just how I do it.
Sometimes when we have certain bills, we'll call on the sponsor first, if it's a House bill, and then the ranking member from that committee. But again, I'm kind of with the Deputy Speaker. You know, often it's who really stands up as well. Sometimes no one stands up, and you have to ask, is there anyone who wants to speak on this bill? But
yeah. Well, that's when people are busy toward the end and trying to negotiate other bills. That happens. I usually try to have a sense of who's in favor and who's opposed and try to go back and forth between that a little bit, but sometimes that's unpredictable. You're surprised, and it's very different now that everybody's back in session. When we were remote, there was a process by which people would click a button and get on a list, and we could see the whole list of people who wanted to speak. Now it's really whoever stands up sits down, and it's a little bit more unclear, like who to call on when.
What are some of the protocols of the presiding Speaker that have to be enforced during the debate?
there are a number of times where we have to use the gavel. That's the last resort. But you know, our job is to make sure we're honoring the institution. And so there are some really important things that we need to follow when we're on the floor of the House. I always think about, we don't want to impugn members. We want people to focus on the policy. Again, you know, we have some heated debates and it can be difficult, and sometimes, you know, someone might make a remark of why someone would vote or not vote on a bill, and we really redirect them, and sometimes with the use of the gavel to focus on the policy. But there's a number of reasons.
Yeah, there are some easier things that we gavel for, like the speaker has to have a direct line of sight to the member who's speaking, and sometimes members will walk across that line. You'll get gavelled for that. If you read and don't, you can ask for permission to read, and that's fine, but the speaker has to offer that permission, and so you need to request that. So you can get gavelled for that. You can also get gavelled for referring to a member by name. We don't allow that in the House. The Senate and the House have different rules. So there are just a lot of things. I always think that John Lovick taught all of us a little bit how to preside. He was here before he moved to the Senate, and he always said, you're like an umpire. You're there to call balls and strikes no matter what the team is that's up at bat speaking, and I try to remember that when I'm up there presiding.
Absolutely, I completely agree. It's good to just keep a focus on, you know, the policy at hand, like you both mentioned. But we have really passionate representatives that care deeply about their constituents, care deeply about their district, the state, and then the policy before them. And it's okay to be passionate. It's okay to be absolutely in favor or opposed to a certain policy. But as long as we keep it laser focused on the policy before us and the amendment before us, if we're talking about an amendment, that helps us keep that respectful debate amongst colleagues here on the floor of the House of Representatives.
Do you memorize all the parliamentary rules, or do you get any help up there?
There are some books that we could be reading, but fortunately we have this brilliant attorney that sits next to us, and she makes sure we follow the rules. And there are things that have to be, sometimes we have to go at ease if there's something that comes up, but she really is the master of the rules.
Yeah, you'll see when you watch floor debate, right, there's always someone sitting sometimes to our right and to our left. For example, when we're passing the budget, very technical, we had 2 attorneys up there, but the attorneys are really the experts in all of the policy and procedure up there. My goal is always to catch something that the attorneys don't catch. And every once in a while I do that, but they're very good at helping us make sure that we're following all of the policy. And they're also thinking about those procedural issues as long-term issues for the House. If we don't rule on something, or we do in a particular way, it creates a precedent for other things that we rule on. So they're thinking about that too.
Yeah, absolutely couldn't do it without our wonderful team of the Speaker's attorney and the Deputy Speaker's attorneys that help us go through the process correctly, make sure that we're consistent, as you said before, and we absolutely couldn't do it without their help. But I will say, to our credit here at the table, there are some things parliamentary-wise that we do pick up on when it comes to orders of business and where we're at in the proceedings and things like that. So, the longer you're up at the rostrum, you do catch on to things and are able to help, as a team, work collaboratively with our Speaker's attorneys and Deputy Speaker's attorneys.
Do you get to vote on your own bills when you're presiding?
One of the rules, it's not a rule written anywhere, but it's a standard, is that the Speaker doesn't file bills generally. And I don't think I have either filed or co-sponsored any bills since I became Speaker. So I don't have that issue, but both Tina and Dan have that issue.
And when we're presiding, we're actually voting for the Speaker. And so if that rare instance where maybe we don't agree, I would have to let someone know that I'm voting differently. So when we're up there, we're voting for you.
But we do get to vote on our literal own bills, and we get to speak on the floor. Probably wouldn't be okay to be giving a floor speech from the rostrum on one of our own bills. So that's one of the reasons there are 3 of us, as we talked about a little bit earlier. We get to speak from the floor on the merits of our own policies, and obviously we care a lot about our own policies, and we want to convey why they're important to the people of our state very clearly from the floor. So yes, but we do get to vote on our own bills.
Final thoughts or favorite parts of the role?
Speaking for myself, my favorite part of the role is I get to represent this noble institution from the rostrum. When somebody is watching a policy that they care about on TVW, a lot of the time us at the rostrum facilitating the debate will be on camera, just like everyone else, but we really are a face of this institution, and it's a real honor to be here, not only from the constituents and the voters that got us here in the first place, but in order to be a Deputy Speaker or Speaker Pro Tem or Speaker of the House, you need to be voted in by our own colleagues, and it's just a huge sense of gratitude, and I'm very humbled that so many of our colleagues have such faith in our abilities that they would continue to vote us into these important roles that allow us to do this work on behalf of the people of our state.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's not a day that I don't walk up those marble steps that I don't feel humbled and honored to be here and to be part of this team. And I love listening to all the members speak, and they are passionate. They're sharing the stories of the people that actually brought us here to represent them. And I also really enjoy the new members. It's a lot when you start, and really seeing them on their first floor speech and the passion and ideas they bring forward. I love that part too.
Yeah, I agree with what both Tina and Dan said, and I've learned a lot from both of them because they both preside more than I do out at the rostrum. I find myself, when I preside, to be regularly really moved by stories that members tell. I mean, not every bill is a bill where you have really moving floor speeches, but many, many, many bills that come forward, members have personal experiences and they share them. And that is really motivational and again, moving to me, because I think that they're speaking on behalf of so many others who have had the experience. So I love that part of the job a lot when I preside.
Agreed.
Well, thank you for listening to this discussion that we've had between the 3 speakers, and hopefully it enlightens you just a little bit about why there's all 3 of us here and what it is that's happening when we gavel people. Have a great day.